What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to the channel. I just wanted to make this video real quick, just in case you guys haven't learned or heard yet. This is getting right to the point. Mercari has decided to do away with fees for sellers. Go figure. Now, I just want to go over the article real quick. There's one on e-commerce bites, and there's another article on a couple other sites. However, I'm just going to read through the one on e-commerce bites real quick. So this came out yesterday, and I'll give you my opinion as far as what I think. I have been selling on Mercari, but not much. It's not going to really make me want to list more. So, I mean, we'll see. But anyway, it says Mercari is eliminating seller fees immediately, even as the cost of selling on other marketplaces continue to rise. But there are some caveats for sellers. The marketplace is introducing buyer fees and is instituting a very buyer-friendly returns policy, explaining in an announcement going out today. She said today, that was yesterday, the 27th. It says, in addition to zero selling fees, Mercari is simplifying the buying experience with an all-new returns policy. As part of this policy shift, buyers will be charged a service fee, allowing for hassle-free returns. For the first time ever, Mercari shoppers can now initiate a return within 3 days for any reason, with the assurance of a refund, less applicable fees. Okay, so they're doing away with seller fees, but they're allowing buyers to return the item for any reason within 3 days of receiving that item, and on top of that, instituting a fee for the buyer, right? So, as part of the policy shifts, buyers will be charged a service fee. Mercari said the removal of selling fees will enable sellers to price their items more competitively and take home more of their earnings, while the introduction of this new returns policy for buyers enables them to shop with confidence. Previously, sellers paid 10% commission plus 2.9% plus 50-cent payment processing fee. To be clear, under the new no selling fees policy, sellers won't have to pay the commission. Sellers won't have to pay the payment processing fees either. Buyers will. There are no changes to shipping options and policies. Mercari US CEO John Langerling said in Wednesday's announcement, "We expect this new business model to give us an even greater lead in offering the best inventory to shoppers across the country, particularly in the most exciting categories that Mercari users have come to recognize us for." Sellers recently debated the impact of marketplace instituting buyer fees in comments on the e-commerce bites blog on Sunday. While the post discussed possible ramifications of buyer fees on eBay purely hypothetically, eBay has not indicated or announced any plans to add a buyer's premium. The comments give an indication of how sellers might feel about Mercari's news. One reader said hypothetical buying fees on eBay would send people to Amazon even more often than they're already doing. Yeah, I don't think eBay wants to go that route. And then that's kind of it. Yeah, you can kind of go to e-commerce bites if you want to read everything. But the summary is 0% selling fees. Selling fee for new listings will be 0%. If you had listed anything yesterday prior to the change, you would have still had to pay the selling fees. Some of the comments says, I've only been a buyer on Mercari for over the last 3 years. Now I might become a seller also, but as a buyer, I'm not too happy. Mercari will use the no selling fees to lure sellers on other sites to their site to sell their wares. 18 months later, once the influx slows, they'll reintroduce selling fees. That's how it's done in real life. A ton of auction houses now charge a 15% buyer's premium and 20% seller's premium. Another person said, if Mercari turns into a returns massacre, then it's no seller fees won't matter at all. They could have easily made seller fees 5% and not jumped up the stupid returns idea or back out of a sell 3-day idea. Is Mercari stupid enough to think that buyers will pay a fee up front? Is Mercari stupid enough to think that buyers will pay a fee up front, the return, or back out and not want it back? All right. So that's kind of it as far as that goes. As far as what I think, this isn't going to influence my decision or not to sell on Mercari more often than not. I'm really not that interested. I put things on Mercari that I either have too much of already or I'm just having problems moving on other platforms. That's kind of my approach to Mercari. As far as what I think it means for that platform in general, I mean, it sounds good as a seller. It sounds good. However, I think I'm going with the person who commented that Mercari probably could have just lowered the fee to 5%, not did the buyer's premium thing, and dreamt up that crazy returns policy. However, I don't think there's an issue with the returns policy, the returns for whatever reason. I mean, if you already sell on eBay and Amazon, you're kind of used to returns, right? Look, you got a good product, you list it correctly, you present it correctly and honestly to the customer, and you make sure that your customer service from the beginning of the purchase all the way up to shipping it and everything like that is good. I think 9 times out of 10 you won't get a return, and that's that. I don't have a problem with them being able to return an item for any reason within 3 days. I honestly think Mercari probably should have just did this, right? Lower the fee for selling, maybe to 5%, like that commenter said, and then just allow buyers to return within 30 days. Period. 30-day returns. I don't know if I would say for any reason, but why not? At this point, y'all, right? At this point, do you really care about returns if you're offering a good product, right? If you're doing what you got to do, you ain't sending somebody crap in a cereal box, do you really care? I feel like 30-day returns should be the industry standard at this point, right? And so I think they should have just said, look, cut fees by 5%, try to bring in some more sellers, and for our buyers, we're just going to institute 30-day returns. You know, they could have said 30-day returns, buyer. Maybe do this. Allow the seller the option to choose how returns are handled as far as buyer pays or free returns. They could do that. Or just say, 30-day returns for anything, any reason. It's kind of what Amazon do. You don't really get a choice. You kind of get a choice on eBay, but not really. If the buyer's savvy enough to just be like, the item wasn't as described, so it doesn't really matter. I honestly think, as a seller myself, that no returns should be an option. There should be no option of no returns. You should always have the option to return an item for whatever reason. And I know some of y'all might disagree, but y'all probably the ones that I don't give too many people. If you are a seller who thinks that a buyer should not be able to return an item for any reason, you don't know what you're doing, honestly. And I'm just going to leave it like that. You don't know what you're doing. We're talking about customer service, man. We're talking about bringing in buyers and retaining those customers, right? And how do you do that? Well, one of the ways you do that is allowing them, for whatever reason, if they don't want the item, to return it. It has nothing to do with whether or not they're going to return you the correct item. Like, that's not most buyers that return items. Most returns are the item that you sent, right? And most returns happen due to something on the seller's side. Most of them, not all, of course. And so I think that having no returns as an option should not even be in the mix. There should always be returns. And as far as I'm concerned, a buyer should always have the option to return an item to me for whatever reason they want to return it. I don't even care why they want to return it. If you don't like it, maybe you got it, you don't like the color, you don't like the size, you don't like, I don't care. Maybe you don't like the way it feels in your hand. If you don't want it, return it. Return it to me in the same condition that I sent it to you, and you'll get your money back. That should be an option. And so as far as this announcement by Mercari, it's not going to influence me selling. I do think that what the one commenter said about Mercari changing this later on down the line, I think that's going to come. I really do. They're not going to stick with this. They're not going to stick with this. The question is, how long are they going to stick with this? It's not going to be a permanent thing. I would be very surprised if they keep this permanent in perpetuity. I will be very surprised. But I think they should have just met in the middle somewhere, like 5% seller fee. We're going to cut that in half for y'all. And for buyers, we're going to offer y'all 30-day returns for any reason if you don't like the item. Or hell, 14-day returns. I don't know. But tell me what you think in the comments. Is this going to influence you to sell more on Mercari? Do you think it's stupid? Do you think they should? What do you think they should have done? How do you think they should have approached this? I don't think it's stupid the way they did it. I just think it wasn't well thought out. But let me know what you think below, and I'll see y'all in the next one.